7 million square miles. Now, we've been told a lie, and this is a part of Antarctica, the cell of the fallen angels. We've been taught because of the present-day Mercator map that Africa is the same size of Greenland. That's not true. Alkebulan, or Africa, is approximately 11.7 million square miles, or 30 million square kilometers, which means you can fit the United States inside of the continent, or China, India, Japan, and all of Europe at the same time inside of what we call Africa today. But that's, to the average mind, they said, well, this is impossible because the present day mapping system, they have Alkebulan the size of Greenland, which is actually 14 times larger than Greenland.
Actually, it's very easy to prove, because if you take the globe, so we have if we divide the globe into two pieces, we got the center is the equator, right? So equator goes through Africa. So it means half of it is under the equator.
Yes.
And I want to say a chunk of it, almost 30%, is above it. So
Yes.
Africa is that big.
It's that
It's
big.
huge. Guys, just look at under the equator.
Because of what there is a mapping system called the Mercator, MERCATOR, projection mapping system, created by the European cartographer, and the term cartographer means a scholar of the creation of maps. Gert de Kremer, G-E-E-R-T space Day, D-E space Kremer, K-R-E-M-E-R, created the Mercator mapping system going back to the 16th century as a common template for world maps today, distorting the size of countries. So now, this is going to, you know this, but this is going to blow people's minds. Laying foundation for, and I love teaching, Antarctica, the cell of the fallen angels. The Venetian Italian cartographer, a man by the name of Livio Sanato, Livio-Sanuto, his brother Giulio Sanato, had designed a map that was published in 1588 called the Africae Tabula the 12th. A-F-R-I-C-A-E, then Tabula, T-A-B-U-L-A the 12th, or some say the 13th. It's a map going back to the year of 1588. In the center of that map, we're talking about going back to 1588, there is a Latin term called ideal rim. Allow me to pronounce it with the N silent. I-V-D-E-O-R-V-M, then the term Tira, T-E-R-R-A, which is a Latin term that when you go to Google Translation or Google Translate, pronounce it as Iodorum, I-U-D-A-E-O-R-U-M, then Tira. That's interesting, T-E-R-R-A. It is translated in English as Land of the Jews.
Oh, really?
In a map of 1588, where they have it as ideal rim with the V and the M sign, I-V-D-E-O-R-V-M, then space Tira underneath it, T-E-R-R-A, and Latin translation of Iodorum, I-U-D-A-E-O-R-U-M, Tira, that when you transliterate it in the Google translation, it means land of the Jews in English. And it's what we call today the Republic of the Congo. Wait a minute, I'm confused. So
The center of Africa.
The center of Africa, the Republic of the Congo, that's been in wars for the past, 30, 40 years against Rwanda. And a week or two ago, they came to the White House, the leaders of the Republic of the Congo in Rwanda, and signed a peace treaty with President Trump.
And Republic of Congo is former Zaire?
Yes, it is. A lot of people, now probably 90% would disagree, but it's former Zaire. And 80 to 90% of the names of the African nations today are not the original name.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at Nigeria. Who created the term Nigeria? A British baroness, a woman by the name of Flora Shaw. Flora Shaw, Flora Shaw, created the term Nigeria. So 85 to 90% of the names on the continent are either German, Dutch, British, Portuguese. And so the map maker, the Antonio Venetian map maker, Livio Sonato's map, in going back to 1588, it shows in the middle the Latin term Ivdeo Rim with the V and the M silent. Man, this is mind-blowing. Ivdeo or VM, then Tira underneath it, Tera, transliterated as Iode Aurum Tira, which means in English, the land of the Jews. Where that maps, what country in Alkebulan today that goes back to 1588 did the Sonoto brothers deem as the land of the Jews? The Republic of the Congo.
So you want to tell me that the Holy Land is not in Israel?
According to the Mercator map today, they got the Holy Land, out of place. The Holy Land, what we call Israel, is actually northeastern Alkebulan, or Africa. But because of this Mercator projection or map, the mapping system has been distorted, and it's done purposely. There is a medical term. It's called situs inversus. Situs, then inversus. It's a medical term, man of God. It means that the organs in the body are out of alignment. You know about that. So this Mercator mapping system is a global geographical situs inversus map, where actually, I'm going to bring this up later, that the continent that the deep state calls Africa is turned upside down. I'm going to come back to that in a minute.
You know, so it was always interesting to me. Why do we see the globe, the earth, north and south like this? Why not the verse first? Why not the upside down? It's so
God is speaking through you. I got to say this, and not to get ahead of the mind of God, but I'm glad that you brought that up. Now, I'm going to bring up later that in the first volume of the seer and the prophet Enoch, every seer is a prophet, but not every prophet is a seer. Of course, another topic for another day. But in the 77th chapter of first Enoch, or the first volume of Enoch, Enoch says that the Western Hemisphere today is actually the Eastern Hemisphere. And the Eastern Hemisphere is actually the Western Hemisphere. And so we'll bring that up later on. And something like that has to be shown on a projector. Because it was, when God revealed this to me a couple of months ago, it was absolutely mind-blowing. According to the first volume of Enoch, in the 70th, actually in chapter 70 and 77, that the hemispheres had been switched. China is not in the Eastern Hemisphere. They're actually in the Western Hemisphere. The United States is not in the Western Hemisphere. We're actually in the Eastern Hemisphere. So you hit a powerful nerve with me on that. And I'll bring that up later on. This is because of demonic influence. as we're laying foundation for Antarctica, the cell of the fallen angels. There is a link. It's called https en.ratibha.com/thread. It talks about another Latin term called terra de Giudei. Allow me to pronounce that. Giudei. When translated into English, is called the land of the Jews. So terra, Terra, space de, de, space Giudea, Giu. Interesting, DEI. It's an Italian word translated into English as land of the Jews.
So terra is land, terra incognita, right? On the unknown land. But Giudel, it's like Judea.
Udei.
It's almost Judea.
Oh, yes. Exactly. But why would the Sonanta brothers call what is called today the Congo and the Congolese people the land of the Jews? Because Jerusalem, where it's at on a map, that's not where Jerusalem is. It's actually in northeastern Archipelago. That's why the deep state built the Suez Canal, which took them, 10 years to build from 1859 to 1869. Why did the Western powers, through Ferdinand Lepsy, who was a French diplomat, build the Suez Canal to separate Al-Kibulan from Israel, to partition Al-Kibulan, which means not just the land of the Jews, yes, but Coptically it means the Garden of Eden. Why? See, the Suez Canal is not a natural ravine. So from 1859 to 1869, they built this canal, had nothing to do with trade and commerce. It was a conspiracy to split the mother continent in order to C-section the Holy Land from
But not that Holy Land.
Yeah.
So what is the wall in the Jerusalem then?
Well, the wall in Jerusalem was built Talmudically. I'll come back to that, but the wall...
This is not the wall from the second temple?
The temple. This wall, the Wailing Wall, is a counterfeit wall. It was created by Talmudists going back centuries ago. It has nothing to do with the real wall of Jerusalem that's going to be surrounding the temple according to Revelation.
So every person that goes to Jerusalem wears this hat and bows his head to the wall. This wall is...
Talmudic scholars built that, and no rabbi, when it was first designed centuries ago, could even pray to whoever they were praying to without wearing those phylacteries, the black cube of Saturn, and which represents a serpentine strap. We're not talking about our Jewish brothers and sisters, right? But the praying wall where every president, every king, in other words, the entire world is influenced by Zionism. The masses of the Israeli people hate Zionism. I am not a Zionist preacher. I'm not a Zionist bishop like John Hagee, okay? And T.D. Powerbottom Snakes and Joe Schulstein. I'm sorry, I don't mean to preach. And these preachers, they are bought and paid for by organizations like the World Zionist Congress. We're not talking about the innocent Israeli people. They hate Zionism because Jacob Rothschild said in an interview a few years ago before his death that his family created the modern state of Israel. And the modern state of Israel, they had their corporation status out of London. That makes no sense.
You know what's interesting in regards to Africa? So we're hearing those stories about Ethiopia. the real Israelites,
Yes.
the real Christians, Ethiopia.
Yes.
It's like, why Africa? Why Ethiopia? Why the black people? What do they have in common with Israel, with the Jews, with the real Hebrews, right?
Yeah.
But now, if you're saying this, it all makes kind of sense.
Yes. You got the Philosophian Jews, Ethiopian Jews who are of the seed of Solomon in the Queen of Sheba.
Because the queen of Ethiopia traveled to
Right.
somewhere to King Solomon
Yeah.
and had a baby and came back to Ethiopia.
Yes.
But they're telling us that she came from Ethiopia to modern day Israel.
Right. Right.
But what you're saying is she came from Ethiopia down to Congo.
Down to the Congo.
That makes more sense.
It makes more sense. And that's why it gets back to the continent of Archipelago on a map, it's upside down.
You want to tell Solomon was black?
Solomon was black. He says, I am black and comely and altogether lovely. So when we look at black history,